Hey Defying Gravity Volleyball family, it's Coach T and I'm back with another YouTube video. In today's YouTube video, I'm giving you guys 4 techniques to help you excel in setting. So let's just hop right into it. So for those that don't know, I was a setter throughout my entire career playing volleyball. It's the only position I ever played. It's just my niche. It's my favorite part. I definitely have positions that I didn't excel in, like hitting per se, but setting is just my bread and butter. So I'm really excited to do this video. All right, enough yapping. The first point is going to be you need to set from your forehead. This is one of the first things that I ever learned in my career playing volleyball, even as a coach when I went to coaching clinics. It's where you take the ball from as a setter. Honestly, that fits a lot of aspects of volleyball if you think about it. When you're contacting the ball with the serve, it matters where you're hitting it. So where you take the ball from is very, very important as a setter. If you moved your hands at the last second when you're about to set a ball, the ball should smack you in the forehead. Taking it in the wrong place could look like you're pushing it from your chest, you're taking it from way behind you, so it goes behind you.
Yes!
Nope.
I try to explain things a bit more logically instead of just throwing techniques at you guys so it actually just sticks in your brain. When you're watching your sets, when you're setting the ball, it should have no sound and it should be a smooth set. So if you ever watched volleyball, especially higher level volleyball, a lot of the times a first pass contact will be a spinning ball because the serve was so intense like that. But when the setter gets that second touch and they're redistributing it, it is smooth, it's not spinning anymore, and it had zero sound on it. I do have to say, of course, no one's going to be perfect where you might never double or you're never going to do a carry, but more times than not, because you want to be consistent and what you want it to be more of a fluke, sometimes happen than like, oh, like I'm always carrying, I'm always doubling. My second main point is going to be about your wrist and hand shape. So this is very, very important because if you think about it, you can't just say, okay, set the ball now, take it from your forehead, you got it. No, you actually need to know, how are my hands even supposed to be looking right now? What are my wrists looking like? Your wrist should be bent a bit inwards and your hand should have a bit of a cup to it. And let me show you visually because I think that's a little bit easier. So you're gonna put both of your hands up in front of your face, just like I started naturally doing it actually, but you're just gonna put it regular, like you're about to double high five someone. Your thumb should be just about as far apart as a volleyball is, so it shouldn't be like this, obviously, and it shouldn't be like that. Maybe right about here, right? And I want you to start slightly bringing your pointer fingers inwards, just very, very slowly. And you'll start to see that I'm making a separated triangle, right? Very different from this W that I just had. Now I have a nice little triangle. It doesn't have to be exactly, I'm making a triangle, but you want to, like I said, slightly bring those fingers inward. So that's the big difference and why that's very, very important for me to explain. Your wrists have a large part in how you are giving a little bit when you're setting. Next, very important, all of these are important, so I'm probably going to keep saying that, is your hand shape. So we got the wrists, right? And you probably naturally saw my hands starting to do it, but your hands, as I just said, are not flat. We are not high-fiving the ball. Setting is vastly different hand shape than when we're hitting the ball. So some way that I'm going to help you guys try to remember this is you're going to have a little bit of a C shape to it. So that's very different than having a few L's. I got some C's in here. Also something that I learned when I was a freshman in high school, something that I never forgot, you can see why I coach this way probably, is that if you put your hand around your arm and you put it up, you'd have a little bit of a cup to it, right? You wouldn't be going like this or like this if you're trying to grab something. You would have a bit of a give and a little bit of a C to it. So if we put those two together, the wrist and the hand shape, my wrists are a little bit in and my hands are a bit cupped, I already have much, much better room and I have way more control of where I'm taking that ball and where I can redistribute it to. My third point is going to be about your elbows. So, of course, you probably saw me naturally doing that when I was explaining the wrists and hand shape. But your elbows, of course, have a large part in how you are effectively distributing the ball back to your hitters. So I'm going to show you. Let's put the microphone on here. So when you're setting, you never want your forearms to be facing each other. You can't even see my face right now, right? And if you're using my tattoos as a reference, this tattoo's face is looking at this tattoo's face, and they are touching faces right now, right? If I put them together. That is something you definitely do not want when you're setting. But also, you don't want your elbows to be too wide, and you're doing one of these, and you're swimming, and you're pushing the ball, and you're really pushing it out like you're doing a breaststroke. We don't want either of those. We want it right in the middle. And honestly, that's just how I'm going to keep it with elbows. I think that's the simplest and quickest way that I can say it. And I don't want to overcomplicate it because elbows are exactly that. You just want to find that sweet middle spot, not too wide and not too close, just right in the middle, giving you that perfect amount of give. All right, my last one is going to be about your hips and feet. Very, very important. And I know I've said that about all of these things, but I do feel that about all of these points. Once you have those technicalities down of your elbows, your hand shape, and your wrist shape, you really need to start considering, okay, now that I got all that down to this certain good level, I need to really think about where are my feet and how are my hips facing right now. Usually this is done by just aligning your hips to where you want the set to go, but also getting your feet to that spot and planting it. So let's start with the feet. So typically, even in passing in volleyball, you want to make sure that you're getting your feet to the ball and then you want to finish the pass, right? You never want to be leaning to get the ball because you didn't take that next step, right? So let's still use that for setting. So when you're setting, you want to make sure you have agility first and foremost. You can't be very slow and heavy footed, especially if you're a youth player who's really working with tough passes because your teammates are working hard to work on their passing. Once you just get to the ball and you get your feet there and you're not leaning to get to the set or you're trying to run backwards too oddly and you want to have one foot out in front of you to help you really push that ball forward. So you never want to have your feet just right next to each other when you're setting because it doesn't give you as much oomph. But if you have one foot forward, you can feel it when you do that difference. It helps you extend and push the ball forward with that foot and really use your legs because we use our legs in all of volleyball, and that includes setting. Next, we're going to talk about your hips. And for this, I really suggest if you have time to use a volleyball net to practice this, you should be doing that. I practiced my hip placement before every single game in warm-ups in high school, and it was the biggest difference in my consistency in setting. So your hips should always be directly facing where you want the set to go. So for instance, let's say you're a setter and the first pass took you outside of the 10-foot line. That means it was way off of the net. You had to run a bit for it, and you're probably not going to get the best set to maybe set up a one ball with middle, right? So this is a tough pass, but you still have time to distribute it to your outside hitter because they have that angle. How are you going to ensure that your ball gets to the outside with that odd angle that you were pulled off of and putting it right in that correct spot? You do that by using the antenna and aligning your hips to the outside hitter. That can look like you're running to get that ball that was taken outside of the 10-foot line. Before you set, turn your hips to face the antenna. So your belly button would be almost adjacent to the antenna. It's basically looking at the antenna, and your hips are facing it as well. And you're going to push the ball to the outside. And more times than not, that almost guarantees the ball will go to the exact point it should if everything else is aligned as well. And in our warm-up drills before a game, the way that I would do that is making sure I'm just lightly tapping the bottom tape of the net to make sure I quite literally just have an arm's length distance between me and the net. I read the pass or the toss because everyone's going to be different that she gives me because she wants me to work on that, right? If you just get the same free ball over and over again during warm-ups, you're not really getting practice to rotate your hips. And I was adjusting my hips accordingly every single time. So that looked like I'm touching the net, I'm assessing the pass very quickly, I move my feet, I rotate my hips to where I'm pushing it, and I push the ball with my foot in the correct placement, my foot forward, and I push it. Or as you guys know, I jump set. I just had my feet planted and ready. My hips were aligned, and I set. All right, that video was very, very fun for me to make. I could actually talk about setting probably for hours and hours and hours and still think of something to say. It's one of the biggest positions. It comes with a lot of pressure. It's just like a quarterback in football. Like you're choosing where the ball is distributed. In offense, you're getting every second ball ideally. It's a lot of work, a lot of pressure, but it's very, very fun. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Also, please don't forget to follow my TikTok and Instagram. They are posted on daily by me, if not weekly. And of course, last but not least, please don't forget to check out my website, defyinggravityvolleyball.com, where I have my blog posts, my YouTube videos are on there, all that good stuff. That's where it all originated, is my website. So please don't forget to check that out for all things volleyball content. But I hope that really helped you guys out, and I'll see you next time. Bye.